What's going on, guys? It's Matt from RC Overload. Welcome back as usual. Today we are doing the electronics overview on the Proline Pro-2 Drift Truck. And for those of you guys that are just jumping in now, that have recently subscribed, what it is that we're trying to do here is we're taking Proline Racing's Pro-2 short course truck and converting it more into an on-road truck that does drifting and all that other fun stuff. So we've done a lot of customization, and feel free to check out the build videos. You guys might find a lot of interest in it. A lot of other people have mentioned that they're going to try to do the same thing as well, which is awesome. But let's move on today with the electronics and some of the things that we've put in and done to this to make it all happen. So to start off, the very first part of the electronics that I ended up picking up was the Spektrum steering servo that I put into this. This is the S6240 model, basically, or 6240 model, like it matters. But anyways, this thing is insanely quick and has a lot of torque, which is pretty much ideal for what I wanted to do. I wasn't really looking to have a lot of torque with this, but I wanted more of the speed. And basically the speed is 0.08 seconds for the transit time, or the time that the servo arm shifts from left to right. That's insanely fast. As you guys can see now, this thing goes from left to right almost instantly. But the other thing that this servo has is 208 ounces of torque. So there is more than enough there to be able to move those tires on the pavement quick enough without having to worry about anything. Now, this also does have metal gears in it. It is a coreless servo, and it does run off of 6 volts. So I shouldn't really run into any issues with needing a BEC or anything like that, considering I am going to be running this truck off of a 3S Lipo. But we'll get into that here shortly. Now, talking about the brushless motor and ESC a little bit here, I was actually given an opportunity from John over at RC Juice to try out this company by the name of HobbyStar. I've never actually heard of them before, but after checking out their site and doing a little bit of searching on the web, it seems like quite a few people are actually very happy with this setup. Now, the reason why I mention that is because this setup is more of a budget-friendly setup. It's not several $100s for a motor and ESC. It's actually much cheaper than that. So when I was looking at this stuff, I'm like, is it going to work? Is it going to be reliable? Well, again, I did a lot of searching, found out on quite a few forums that a lot of people are actually running this setup on their own trucks and have been very, very happy with it. The quality of these products seem to actually be very high quality, which actually impressed me for how cost effective that these really were. So I'm actually quite eager to try out this setup. Now, getting into the specs of the ESC here, this ESC is 120 amp ESC. It's more than enough for what we're going to be doing with it. But the reason that we went with something so high was I was talking with John again over at RC Juice, and I told him exactly what it was that we were going to be doing with this. Drifting, on-road racing, stuff like that. And he actually recommended that we went with a higher amp ESC, so that way the temperatures of the ESC stayed cooler. Even though we're going to be putting a lot of power and a lot of stress on the brushless motor, the ESC will be able to give the motor everything it's asking for and still have more than enough room to supply everything that it needs to, basically, while at the same time keeping itself cool. Now, this also does feature a 760 amp burst current. I don't know if it's actually that much, I don't have any way of testing it, but that's quite a bit. But then again, it is 120 amp ESC and it is rated for a 1/8 scale truck. However, we made it fit on the Proline Pro-2 short course truck without any problems. Now, this also does feature a 10 gauge wire set for the motor and the battery setup ends. However, on the website, if you guys go and look, you will notice it says 12 gauge. I don't know if that's a typo or not, but I'm just giving you guys the heads up. Mine do have the 10 gauge wires on it, okay? Now, these also do come with bullet connectors. I want to say that they were 6mm bullet connectors on this. However, I took those off and put 4mm bullet connectors on it to match the brushless motors. It's not going to affect anything because the motor's not going to require as much power as what this ESC is capable of doing, so I'm not concerned about lowering the bullet connector size down to a 4mm. You guys hopefully understand that part. But moving on with that, this ESC is capable of doing censored and censoredless or non-censored brushless motors, and it does have a lot of programming features in it. Using the supplied programming card, which is just a basic programming card, it uses a bunch of numbers and buttons to set everything up instead of listening to tones or whatnot. You can change things kind of like the low voltage cutoff, motor reversing, motor timing, brake percentage, and a whole bunch of other things as well in this. So it gives you a wide range of different specs that you can adjust on this for your driving style or what it is that you're doing. Now, taking a step back onto the motor reversing, as you guys may have noticed here in the few clips I've shot for you while we were talking, my motor wires are reversed. I've swapped the orange and the blue wires to reverse the motor. Why is that? Because the whole transmission and motor assembly has been rotated 180 degrees, causing the motor to actually turn in a reversed direction than it normally would have if it was positioned on the back side of it. That may be a little complicated for some of you guys. I understand that. It's the way the gearing operates and everything. But nonetheless, when I applied forward throttle, the motor actually went reverse, vice versa. So one of the simplest ways of changing that is actually taking the two outside wires on your brushless setup and swapping them. So that way it reverses the polarity going to the brushless motor, causing it to actually reverse direction so that you get the correct forward is forward, reverse is reverse setup. However, last night I was doing the programming on this, and then I realized that the ESC is capable of reversing the motor for you, so you don't have to do that. So I will be swapping those motor wires later on and changing that. Should probably read before doing that. Who needs reading? I like pictures. Lots of pictures. But moving on from the ESC, the brushless motor that we have in there is a non-censored brushless motor. It's a 2600 kV setup, 4-pole, 550 sized can. It's actually a little on the smaller side for 550. It's closer to a 540, but it still has all the same power and the torque and everything else that a 550 can would have. It does have only 50,000 RPM range, so it's more ideal for low-end torque versus having top speed, where you would need those higher RPMs for. But for the drifting purpose, I would rather have the low-end torque and not need the higher speed right now anyways. Also, one thing I did want to mention on the ESC is capable of doing up to 6S Lipo or even 5 to 18 cell nickel metal hard drive and NiCad batteries. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys in case you were curious. If you're not running Lipo but you want to do this setup, you can still run that other batteries. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. I'm pretty stoked about this. We are running a 20-tooth pinion gear with the spur gear setup that we had discussed last week. This does seem to be the largest pinion size that I can fit on there with the way the motor mount setup is. If I find out that I need to actually go bigger for whatever reason, I'm going to have to make some changes to the motor mount system. But I have a feeling the 20-tooth is going to be plenty for what it is that we're doing. I'll see if I can get this clip up here, but I shot it with my phone. Again, we'll see if I can get it up. But basically, I did a quick test of the motor and brushless motor and everything like that to see how well it worked. And we were actually making these road rage tires balloon up right here on the counter at full throttle, which is quite crazy on 3S. Street tires ballooning. That's awesome. Moving on from the brushless motor now, we are talking about the battery. As you guys know, I run max amps in all my trucks, so obviously I put in a max amp setup in this as well. I am again running 3S Lipo, 150C discharge. The one that you guys see in here is a hard case setup. It's a 6500 milliamp battery pack. It is a little bit heavy, so I don't know if I'm going to actually end up using this battery pack in the truck or if I'm going to use my 4000 3S Lipo battery pack. This is a soft case, but it is much lighter and it's a little bit thinner. So if I find out that the weight of this 6500 is a little much for this truck, I can at least swap it out for my other 3S Lipo battery that I have, and hopefully that one will work as well. I think that is it. I know a lot of information. If you guys have any questions or are unsure of something, feel free to leave me a comment below. And I do want to mention that John from RC Juice, where I got the brushless motor and ESC setup, is offering you guys a 10% off at checkout. Just use the coupon code RCOverload10 at checkout and you'll save yourself 10%. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter like always. Check out all the pictures and videos I post off the show here. A little behind the scenes stuff type of deal. And make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, like the video, share the video. Go out and have some fun with RCs. So, I'm going to go put this on the shelf because we are starting up our last build series, the ECX Torment, a much awaited build series. I can't tell you how many of you guys have asked me over and over again, when am I starting this? Well, finally got almost all the parts in for it, so next week we are doing the overview for it to show you guys what we're going to do to it, and we're going to start that. In the meantime, I have a lot of bodies I got to paint, so a lot of things happening here. Hopefully we get a lot of videos out in the next few weeks for you. That would be fantastic. I think I covered everything. And if I didn't, oh well, I'll put it in the description box. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you later on the next RC Overload.